7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Startland News. I'm Bobby Birch. As we enter 2018, we want to start delivering you different types of content. So we're going to try something new and give you a peek behind the scenes of a recent big story. So as you might have seen on StartlandNews.com, on January 30th, the Missouri Hyperloop Coalition welcomed an executive from Virgin Hyperloop One to Kansas City. They brought in Dan Katz, the Director of Global Public Policy for Hyperloop One, to kick off a feasibility study that will be led by the local engineering firm Black Veatch. In that study, they're going to be looking into the feasibility and impact of building a high-speed Hyperloop route connecting Kansas City, Columbia, Missouri, and St. Louis. And though the technology is still in its testing phases and not yet being used in the real world, it would still theoretically be able to transport people from Kansas City to St. Louis in only 30 minutes. They'd be moving at speeds of about 640 miles per hour. So to learn more, on Tuesday, I had the chance to sit down with Dan Katz to talk to him about the plan in Missouri and the Hyperloop One technology. Also joining Dan and I are Michael Demers, the Director of Innovative Partnerships and Alternative Funding at MoDOT, and Dave Lelligdon, Black Veatch's Vice President of Major Projects. So here are some excerpts from that conversation. What are we announcing here today?
So we're announcing that we formed a partnership and an agreement to move forward with a full-fledged feasibility study to study Hyperloop here in Missouri along I-70. And the players in this are Hyperloop One and Missouri Hyperloop Coalition, and Black Veatch here in Kansas City is going to serve as our engineering consultant. And so they're going to bring to bear their incredible knowledge and expertise to this effort. And we're also getting support from Missouri DOT, and the University of Missouri is also a big player in this effort as well.
So what does a feasibility study entail?
So a feasibility study is where you actually take the technology, you take the system application, and you apply it to Missouri. You say, well, can this work here? You look at the route itself. We've identified I-70 as the route and the alignment we want to do. Black Veatch, working with us, is going to actually figure out how do you put a Hyperloop along I-70. What are the options of putting a Hyperloop there in a way that you can utilize the right-of-way that you have and accommodate not just the Hyperloop, but other forms of transportation along I-70. So it's really the first step towards a project. You have to test the feasibility technically as well as sort of demand modeling and economically to make sure that there's going to be the right kind of demand for a system like this. We typically believe that bringing a new mode of transportation like this, which is a real game changer, creates induced demand where you have demand for a new offering. So, there might be X amount of people who are taking a very slow Amtrak train right now, but if you offer, the same trip in a tiny percentage of the time and much higher speed and better convenience, suddenly you'll induce a lot more demand than you currently see.
So regarding this prospective route, we're talking Kansas City, Columbia, St. Louis. What advantages do you see of that route?
So a couple. One, it's a route that's along a highway, which is a very intriguing concept for us. Other modes of transport have some limitations on where they can go. We can go in some more creative places, and so it's going to be an opportunity to test this concept out of going along an interstate highway across an entire state. So that's an exciting thing. In addition, it's a very straight route. Our engineers like straight routes because they know that on a straight route you can get up to speed and you can maintain that speed and you can move people very quickly. So we're excited about that. We're also excited that you're connecting two major cities and a university in a way that really would create a mega region, turn the state into a mega region along I-70 which will transform things for the state and for the economy, and show what a Hyperloop can do to really change local economies and turn distinct metro areas into a powerhouse mega region like we could do here.
Any disadvantages that you see of a route just on the onset?
The route looks great. I mean, that's an extremely attractive thing. I mean, we look at a lot of different routes around the world, and a lot of them look pretty challenging. This one, at first glance, is very exciting. So we want to test out that theory through the feasibility study and see if it holds true.
So I believe you're doing a feasibility study in Denver right now. How long does a process like this usually take?
7 to 9 months
Okay.
is what we estimate it'll take.
Just wanted to clarify some media reports that I had previously saw. I believe you told the AP that Missouri is a top 5, even maybe top 3 route. Is that true?
Yeah, we think it's definitely top 5. I mean, originally in our global challenge, we said this route was a finalist. We didn't declare it a winner at first. One of the reasons was MoDOT had stepped up and showed us the proposal, but there wasn't all the players around. And we knew that, you really need to have the private sector engaged locally. You need to have, the business community on board, the tech sector. But it was almost like once we announced the finalist rather than winner, everybody came together around here. And so what we saw was this incredible spurt of energy. And it became clear to us that, wow, they really have built an incredible coalition here for the Missouri Hyperloop. And so in our minds, it just, we had a great idea from MoDOT, and then the coalition built up around it and made it really, in our mind, like a top 5 contender.
Yes. So, say Missouri is ultimately picked. How long do you see a project like this taking?
I mean, this kind of project is a very phased project. It's a project that, as you move forward, and it depends on whether it's the first or second or third Hyperloop in the world, what it's going to entail. So, if it's the first one, then we're talking about, moving a lot of our testing to the initial segment that's built and spending a little more time than usual for infrastructure project testing it, to certify it and make sure everything runs smoothly. So, this process it takes years, and we hope to have something up and running, at least for testing, by 2021, at least some portion, some phase of the project up and running. But, if it's also going to create an ecosystem around our project, especially if it's one of the first, where local businesses and startups will be engaged on it, and it opens all kinds of opportunities. It'll catapult Missouri into a leader in transportation technology, and open up all those opportunities as well.
Any idea on a prospective cost on something like this, even a range?
We have to do the study to figure that out.
Yeah, well, so regarding what I saw in the release about the economic impact, it seems like it could have a transformational impact on Missouri. Could you speak to what you're seeing that potential to be?
Yeah, so, we see for places like Missouri is a great case study because it has I-70 connecting all, 2 cities and a university that can be turned into a mega region, compete with some of the biggest metropolitan areas, in the world in terms of talent and business, and also having this piece of infrastructure in Missouri is going to attract people who want to be around it and be part of it, in addition to all the jobs and the ecosystem around that. So we think it's transformative for anywhere we go, but we like Missouri a lot because the elements are really there. It's really interesting to have a place that, on each edge of the state you have a large city, and we can really link them in a way where they're not competing against each other, but they're working together to enhance the economy of the entire region. And it is feasible, that we create this system, and you can live in Kansas City and work in St. Louis, right? That's like a transit stop once this is up and running. So that concept alone changes a lot of people's calculations.
Virgin Hyperloop One just conducted a test recently, achieved, I believe, 240 miles an hour on a short track. Could you tell us a little bit about what was it like to see that?
Oh, we were just incredibly excited. What we've been doing is, I guess you can call it flooring it. We are accelerating very rapidly on 300 meters of acceleration and 200 to slow down. So we are testing the limits of the system, and getting up to that amount of speed in that short runway was very exciting. Of course, when we move into commercial applications, we'll never accelerate that fast, but it was amazing to see the vehicle perform that way, and our engineers are incredibly excited. Out in the desert, they've been working for a year or so now, putting up this facility, and to see the vehicle performing like that has just been really inspiring.
So a lot of the news we see is obviously about moving people, but there's big potential for freight. Can you tell us a little bit about, is this feasibility study touching on freight and on human transportation feasibility, or tell us a little bit about
Yeah, sure. It's both. It's not port containers, but it's smaller form packaging for movement of cargo. And the way the pods are designed is that you can have a passenger pod, you can have a cargo pod. We imagine that there will be special kind of palletized units for use in a cargo pod. It was suggested recently by an expert that we were working with that said, hey, you're talking about building efficiencies into a system. You can certainly move cargo along with passenger pods, but you think of a system that in the evening, when there's less passenger traffic, moving a ton of cargo during those hours. So, the possibilities are really endless for both passengers and cargo.
Well, Michael, tell us a little bit about the perspective from MoDOT and from the state of Missouri.
Well, the Department of Transportation is obviously one of the executive departments of the state of Missouri, and people would perhaps appropriately wonder what is the government's role in facilitating this conversation and facilitating this feasibility study. I think MoDOT is really excited to be a part of this consortium just because it allows Missouri to be at the front of the conversation here and gain exposure to all of these new technologies without putting forward even $1 in public money. We get basically to bring all of this infrastructure and capability to Missouri and really look at, what it would take to make this new mode of transportation a reality.
Right. And here, I'll come over there. Bob,
Apologize for being late.
No problem.
I'm Dave.
Dave, nice to meet you. In Black Veatch.
Correct.
Okay. Well, tell us, Dave, a little bit about now that you've secured this RFP. What are some of the first steps that Black Veatch is going to be taking?
Well, we're excited to have been selected. This is a great opportunity for us and for the region. Some of the initial planning will take place with MoDOT, with Hyperloop One, to kind of set up the parameters for the study. And then the initial focus will be on the alignment, using computer tools and GIS systems to look at different radiuses of curvature, elevation changes to try to maximize parameters for that. There's also an environmental component, and as discussed earlier, and economics from both cost but also demand and the way it could change the economic landscape of the region.
So Hyperloop has never yet been completed, or this isn't all new. Mm-hmm. Is that an exciting process?
It is exciting. We've been in business 100 years, work on a wide range of technologies all over the world, and to look at something new and see, well, what we do here can help with that, and what we can do here, and bring it all together. I think it's going to be a great benefit to the study. Asking those questions that haven't been asked, or what when we do come up to a roadblock, working with an incredible group through the University of Missouri, MoDOT, Hyperloop One, to come up with solutions to help move the technology forward.
Well, regarding kind of trying to find a roadmap, I mean, obviously there isn't one for something like this. Is there any analogous technologies or systems that are offering some help?
Through other linear, pipelines for water, for natural gas, power transmission lines would be similar-ish. There's elements of those in here. Some of it's just going to be iterative and moving forward and taking lessons learned from other industries and other practices and, bringing the best-in-class ideas to this.
Well, I believe that was all the questions that I had. Dan, do you have anything else I didn't ask that you wanted to share with readers or listeners?
I think that, people talk about the hardware a lot, but another incredible innovation of the system is really the control system. It's as innovative as the hardware is. The software control system is just as innovative in changing the way people move. Where you're no longer dependent on a train schedule. You would not have to stop at every station between you and your destination. You would, much like a ride-sharing app, you'd put in where you want to go. You go to the Hyperloop station, and it would tell you to go to Bay 6, and it'll be leaving at 11:50, and it's for destination from Kansas City to St. Louis, and everybody in that pod is going to St. Louis. And if there's another one leaving right after that, that one's going to Columbia. So, and the one going to St. Louis doesn't stop in Columbia; it just keeps going. So, these are concepts that really can radically change the way we move. And so, I think it's an important thing for your readers and listeners to think about in terms of how we move in the future and more efficiently utilize our infrastructure.
Any idea on what a ride would cost from KC to St. Louis?
We don't know, but our goal has always been that this is something for the public. It's for the general public. It's not for just the elites. So we want the pricing and the cost to be something that people can actually utilize. We need them to utilize it, or it's not going to happen. So we want it to be affordable and something that you can take, even if you live in one city and work in the other, be able to commute using it.
Well, Dave, anything else that you want to add on the Black Veatch side?
No, we're just excited. This is a great opportunity. Helps us attract talent as we go speak at universities or to experienced professionals to know that Black Veatch is involved with this type of cutting-edge technology. Certainly brings a lot of benefit to ourselves and to the region.
And Michael, anything else that you wanted to add on from the Missouri perspective?
I think MoDOT is just really welcoming all these people here to Missouri. I think if you look at how these modes have historically been built out across the country, from aviation to railroads, everything has to cross through Missouri to basically, traverse the United States and get to international markets. So if you were going to build a national network for a new mode of transportation, my question is, why wouldn't you want to start in Missouri?
All right, well, there you have it. Some more insight into Hyperloop One's plans in Missouri. You can learn more about this project and more news from Kansas City's entrepreneurial community by visiting startlandnews.com. We'll see you next time, and thank you for listening.